Well, hey there, folks. It's Jimmy Stewart here, hoping this is finding you all doing well. In today's video, we're going to take you back to 1982 as we continue the deep dive on the anniversary, the 40th year anniversary of this guy right here. Pretty good likeness. The Cordially album, released in 1982. And we are going to take another deep dive on one of the tracks on this particular album, and we're going to look at track 5, which is the closing track on side A today, and it's called Eastbound 44. Now, this particular track is unusual in a couple of ways. One is that it's the only instrumental on this particular album. And two, this song kind of originates back to 1975 with a very interesting story. I still have not fully committed to seeing if I want to tell the story or not. I'm going to think about it as we continue on this album. And I know I already told you guys that I was giving you the backstories. I wanted to give you as much information as I could because it's interesting when you do an album for the first time, where the songs come from, how they get written. And this particular song has got a very, very interesting story. So maybe I will give you that as we go along. Haven't figured that out yet. Let me think about it for a little bit. So anyway, in today's video, we're going to check out Eastbound 44. It comes in and clocks in at 4 minutes, 56 seconds. It's an interesting track. Again, it's the only instrumental that's on this particular album. So let's have a listen to the track. Do me a favor, if you can, get a set of headphones, pop them on your noggin, and give this track a listen because it has some interesting pieces to it that I think that you'll enjoy. And as I talk about the track after it is over, you'll have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So here it is. This is Eastbound 44 from the Cordially album. Let's have a listen. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, that's the ending track, the ending of side A on the Cordially album, and the only instrumental on the album. Now, I've got the OS-20 out today. Again, if you've been following the series on this particular album, you'll realize that most, if not all, of the lead guitar tracks and tracks on that particular album were done on my 54 Les Paul Jr. pick up here. Again, I did a review of that guitar as well. If you have not had a chance to check it out, please do so. And most of that stuff, again, was done on the 54 Les Paul. I had a 77 Flying V that was doing some of the background stuff. In fact, I think I may have added one rhythm track with the 77 Flying V. There is 2 rhythm tracks on this particular track. If you listen again, if you had a chance to listen through headphones, or if you listen to it again, you'll hear that the beginning pieces were something like this. Let me, again, it's kind of a slinky blues track. I call it greasy. It's kind of a greasy blues track that is interesting. It was done clean. And you'll hear one track that opens it up, and it's like this. And then the rest of the band comes in there. But there's 2 of those rhythm tracks. One was done on the 77, I believe, and the other was done on the 54 Les Paul Jr. Again, recorded directly to the board, no amplifier. The lead pieces on that were done on the 54 Les Paul Jr., and they were double tracked, and they were done in panned side to side. Again, you've got that. They were done clean. I'm going to put a little snot on here just so you can hear it. And again, these were double tracked and panned left and right. And then the top piece. And you had those little trills at the end of it. Then it drops to a C. Then down to your B. Then back to your E. Now, I did the main licks and doubled those, played them twice, side to side, and then sometimes on the little trill pieces after the main lick, I would change it up. So you'd hear something on this side and something a little bit different on that side. And then also has the, the Jimmy Stewart signature start and stops that I use in a lot of tracks, that. So you'd hear that slide up from the D to the E, and then stop. Again, hand mute. And that's basically how that song goes. Then the middle 8, there's a break. So it goes. like that. Okay, so now the story of the song. So, all right, this is tough to tell. I've kept this only to a very few folks and very few people that I've talked to all these years since 1975. So let me tell you real quick. In 1975, we had just gotten back on the Nimitz. I was stationed aboard the USS Nimitz, CVAN 68, and then they changed it to CVN 68. So back then, we got commissioned on the 3rd of May, 1975, my birthday. I think I've already told you that story. And then our first cruise outside of Rosie Roads and the builder trials and all that kind of stuff, going to Guantanamo, getting ready, the shakedown cruise as they call it, we went on a North Atlantic cruise to show off the ship. It was only for a couple of months, but it was basically to the North Atlantic. And when we got back from the North Atlantic, we got back right around the end of September of 1975. And I think it was right around the first part of October when the ship got back, we went into the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, just to whatever the Navy does when that ship gets back for the first time, and they tweak things. We were there for a few months. Now, when the ship got back, we went to Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. It wasn't a full retro, but it wasn't dry dock. It wasn't where the crew had to move off the ship to get work done. We still lived on board. And that was a pretty miserable existence, to be honest with you, because when you're used to being out and on the ship, you're a family of Navy guys. When you get to the shipyard, all the civilian guys come aboard, all the welders and the builders and the tearers and the grinders, and it is 24/7 a nightmare on board the ship because there's work going on constantly. Very hard to sleep, especially aboard the carrier, and when you got quite a few people. The air wing leaves, those guys leave, but the ship's crew stays on board. So me and a friend of mine, this one particular weekend, it had to be in October. It was the fall of '75. In fact, I can nail that down because I know we drove from Portsmouth to Virginia Beach. And that was the only time when I was aboard the ship that we were in Portsmouth. And I know the time frames that we were there. And I also had just gotten a new car. So back in the day, when I first went in the Navy, I had a 1969 Fleetwood Cadillac limousine. Keeping that rock star image going on, right? In fact, here's a picture of it right here. I'm the guy with the cool looking guy with the white standing next to the vehicle. And because of that car, it was constantly being towed in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area because it was huge. It would take up 2 parking spaces, would fill it full of sailors. You could seat 9 in it, and we'd drive around, we'd pull into McDonald's and roll the windows down and, order 12 hamburgers and cheeseburgers. Anyway, it was constantly being towed. When we went on the North Atlantic cruise, I had it at a friend of mine's house at his apartment building, and they towed it from there. It had Massachusetts plates. That's where I was from. It was fully legal, but, I guess the gentleman's wife that was supposed to be keeping an eye on the car, I guess never told the apartment complex that it was my car, and they had no ideas who it was, so they towed it. But the weird thing is, it had Massachusetts plate. All they had to do was look. But anyway, it was towed, and they actually sold it when I was away, because I didn't claim it in 30 days. Anyway, we got that all straightened out when we got back from the North Atlantic cruise, but then I brought it home, and what was Billy Joel's? I traded in my Chevy for a Cadillac. Well, I did the opposite. I traded in my Cadillac for a Ford Mustang. I bought a brand new 75 Ford Mustang with the sliding roof and all that. It was a nice little car, but it wasn't a Cadillac, but it was nice. It was a lot less expensive to put gas in it, let's put it that way. And that's back when gas was very, very cheap. Not like it is today, folks. Anyway, so I remember we were in Portsmouth, and we were driving from Portsmouth to Virginia Beach just to take a weekend off the ship. And it was off season in Virginia Beach. The crowd wasn't there, the tourists weren't there. This was October. It might have been November, but I'm pretty sure it was in October because within a week or two after we pulled into the Naval Shipyard in Portsmouth. And when you're driving from Portsmouth to Virginia Beach, it used to be 264, and then you'd run into 64, which went to Norfolk, and 44 east that went to Virginia Beach. So eastbound 44. But that's not really the story. It was that particular trip that we took, me and a friend of mine, same division on the ship, very good friend at the time. Have not seen him since when I left the ship, 1977. This is 1975. And as we're driving down from 264 into picking up 44 to head towards Virginia Beach, there used to be a toll booth right there at Mount Trashmore. They called it Mount Trashmore. It was a park that they made out of a trash mound on the right-hand side of the road. And Princess Anne and all that stuff, Virginia Beach Boulevard was on the left-hand side. And you'd drive down and you'd have to get a dime. I think it was a dime at the time, and throw your dime in the basket. And obviously the traffic would get to that point where it would start to slow down as people were slowing down to pay their toll. Right there, above the toll booth, on the other side of the road, I saw what appeared to me at the time, it looked like a ladder that was suspended in the sky on fire. You could see the rings of the ladder kind of, that's what it looked like from a distance, like the rings of the ladder were on fire. So picture a ladder kind of burning with the rings in the air, a couple of 100 feet in the air. As we got closer and as the traffic started to bottleneck into the toll booth, I could see exactly what I was looking at. So picture two plates together like this with a center part, as the plates are perfectly symmetrical, like two saucers, except this was in the air like this. And what I was seeing, what looked like was on fire, looked like rings on fire, was actually the spinning of the area between the two plates. It was red lights. And it was sitting and hovering above the highway. I can't remember exactly, but it was perfectly visible. You could see because it wasn't dark yet, it was dusk, but it wasn't dark. I had no lights on in the car. It was a beautiful day, windows were down, sunroof was open. We were going to the beach and having a wonderful weekend. We were getting ready to, and this was sitting in the air like that, and you could see it rotating this way. As we pulled up to the toll booths, cars were obviously stopped to pay their tolls, but there was a lot of vehicles considering the time of the day and the fact that it was off season, so it wasn't as busy as usual. But there was cars. I mean, there was a lot of cars. In fact, there was cars pulled over. We weren't the only ones seeing this. And as we were watching it, I remember paying my toll and it was still in that position. And then it went like this and it leveled off. And then still no noise. And then it started climbing and heading out towards the beach, eastbound on 44. We followed it in our car for a good 5-6 minutes until it finally pulled away and then went out to sea. I imagine that's the way it was heading. We couldn't see the sea at that point, but in another 5 minutes, we were in Virginia Beach. It's only about 10 or 15-minute ride from that toll booth till you get to Pacific Avenue in Virginia Beach and you're at the beach. So that thing kept going. Again, it wasn't a light in the sky. It wasn't swamp gas. It wasn't a helicopter. None of those things that the government will always tend to tell you that this is what it probably was. It wasn't a balloon. It wasn't any of those things. None. I could perfectly, in fact, everybody on that road on 44 that particular day at that time could not miss this. They couldn't mistaken this for anything else. It was a UFO. Today they call them what? UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. UAPs, unidentified aerial, that's what they call them today. Back then they were UFOs. Without question. Now, you can think I'm crazy. You think I made this up. I've never told this story since 1975. Remember, I was active duty military, and so was the gentleman with me. We did not say anything. I've never told the story. Close family and friends, I've told the story over the years. I bring it up only because really that was the reason this song was written. And I wrote it because we were eastbound on 44. And later on in 1976, I ended up getting an apartment with a friend of mine right on the beach. And we drove that road all the time. And every time I'd go by there, I could hear the song in my head. It was pretty strange. The song wrote itself. I remember I didn't have a guitar with me at the time. I mean, we were driving to Virginia Beach to go on a weekend of R&R. That song wrote itself in my head, and then once I had my guitar, the following year, I think it was in '76 when I picked up my '54 Les Paul Jr., I sat down and wrote that track instantly. It was pretty weird. So that's the story of Eastbound 44. You know, put your slippers on, put your tinfoil hats on, and hey, it is what it is. You know, I retired from the military. I spent 20 years. Never told that story while I was in the military. I might have told my wife at one point after we got married. I think I told my kids the story, but that's kind of about it. Maybe some friends, close friends. But never, this is the first time. So again, believe what you want to believe, but I firmly believe it. And that is the story of Eastbound 44 on the Cordially album. All right, folks. So I hope you enjoyed today's little dive into the Cordially album. Happy anniversary, 40th anniversary, recorded in 1982. That particular song, however, written from a very unusual experience from the fall of 1975. Okay, folks, so we're going to end it for today. I truly appreciate you stopping in. Thank you ever so much for all the folks that have been subscribing. If you are still on the fence about subscribing, though, come on over to the paranormal side. Now, come on over to the good side. Would love to have you on board. Until next time, folks, it's Jimmy Stewart saying so long. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. Stay safe. Be healthy. And we'll talk to you all again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.